I'm going a little out of order here because I'm going to pursue some of the things that you were just talking to Mr. Fry about and remind you about your confirmation hearing. At your confirmation hearing in January, you said under oath, and I quote, "There will be no politicization at the FBI. There will be no retributive actions taken by the FBI should I be confirmed." And in your written response to the Senate questionnaire, you said, I quote, "Personnel decisions shall be based on performance and adherence to the law. And every FBI employee will be held to the absolute same standard, and no one will be terminated for case assignments." So I want to just go through a couple of scenarios with you to get a sense of whether you think these are examples of politicization of the FBI or making decisions based on the performance and adherence to the law. So, first question. Would hiring FBI agents, analysts, and supervisors from only one political party being politicization of the FBI or making personnel decisions based on performance and adherence to the law?
We don't ask FBI people, applicants, where their political parties are.
Mr. Patel, do you ask FBI applicants who they voted for?
The FBI does not.
Are you aware that in the lawsuit that Mr. Driscoll filed against you and the FBI, he was asked who he voted for?
Since that lawsuit has been filed that's ongoing litigation, I'm not able to comment.
Well, but it also means that you just said that what happened in his situation didn't happen. So we will go on to the next question. Let me ask you an even easier one. Does firing agents for working on the cases that they were assigned to and that the president didn't like, is that politicization of the FBI or making personnel decisions based on performance and adherence to the law?
The FBI doesn't terminate anyone based on case assignments alone.
Has the FBI ever been sued by somebody who felt that they were terminated based on case assignments?
In the entire history of the FBI, I'm sure they have.
No, since your tenure.
I'm sure there's ongoing litigation.
Yes. In fact, there is ongoing litigation. And in fact, people have been asked who they voted for. And in fact, you are running an FBI for the President of the United States rather than the people of the United States, because my questions were not hypotheticals. They are the things you have done during your tenure. And according to a lawsuit filed last week by long-term FBI agents, you fired former acting director Brian Driscoll. He had served with the Bureau for nearly 20 years, earned a Medal of Honor, Medal of Valor for bravery during the dangerous ISIS raid, and had a wealth of crisis response experience and led the FBI's Critical Incident Response Group. When the Trump administrations interviewed Mr. Driscoll for that role, they interrogated him about his political leanings and who he voted for in the last 5 elections. Questions Mr. Driscoll refused to answer because those types of questions impermissibly politicized the FBI. You also fired Steve Jensen, who served the FBI for nearly 2 decades and ran critical terrorism, counterintelligence, and organized crime operations, whom you once described as embodying what the American public demands of the FBI. But he was fired because he took part in investigating crimes committed on January 6th. And Trump's MAGA base lambasted you online for keeping him at the FBI. So he's no longer at the FBI. You also fired a decorated combat veteran with decades of experience in the Bureau, Special Agent Walter Jardia, because he worked on the investigation into the Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election and helped investigate Trump's ally, Peter Navarro. Director Patel, it is very clear that you have flunked your own test. You put saving your job, which I actually believe you were being honest about during your confirmation hearings, over doing what's right for the FBI and the American people. That is not adherence to the law. Thank you, and I yield back.
Congresswoman Deborah Ross holding FBI Director Kash Patel's feet to the fire, and she didn't just come with questions, she came with receipts. Ross reminded Patel of his own confirmation hearing, where under oath he promised there would be no politicization of the FBI, no retaliation, and that personnel decisions would be based solely on performance and adherence to the law. Those were strong words at the time, meant to reassure both Congress and the American people. But Ross systematically laid out how Patel has failed to live up to that promise. She pointed out that under Patel's leadership, agents weren't judged on performance or merit, but on whether their work aligned with Donald Trump's political interests. She highlighted lawsuits and firings that paint a clear picture of partisanship. And she reminded Patel of his own words before contrasting them with his actual record. Let's be clear about what's at stake here. The FBI isn't just another government agency. It's supposed to be the gold standard of impartial law enforcement, an institution that protects our democracy by applying the law equally to everyone, regardless of political power or party affiliation. If it becomes a political tool of any president, Republican or Democrat, that undermines the very idea of justice. Ross brought up the case of Brian Driscoll, a 20-year FBI veteran who had earned medals of valor for bravery and led critical operations. He was questioned about his political leanings and ultimately fired, not for misconduct, not for incompetence, but because he wouldn't bow to political litmus tests. That's dangerous because it signals to career professionals loyalty to the law and the Constitution doesn't matter, only loyalty to one man does. She also referenced Steve Jensen, another veteran FBI official praised for his integrity and dedication, who was shown the door simply for doing his job investigating January 6th. That investigation, by the way, wasn't partisan. It was about holding accountable those who violently attacked our Capitol. Firing someone for pursuing that is exactly what Ross meant when she said Patel is running an FBI for Trump, not for the American people. And then there's Special Agent Walter Jardia, a decorated combat veteran, pushed out because he helped investigate Russian interference and Trump's allies. If seasoned professionals can be fired for following the evidence wherever it leads, it sends a chilling message. Investigate the wrong person, and your career is over. That is politicization, pure and simple. Ross's questioning underscores a bigger theme, the erosion of institutions under partisan pressure. Once the FBI is weaponized, it's not just about the people being investigated, it's about whether any American can trust law enforcement to act independently. Today, it might be one party demanding loyalty oaths. Tomorrow, it could be another. Either way, democracy loses. And here's the human element we can't forget. Behind these names, Driscoll, Jensen, Jardia, are people who dedicated decades of their lives to serving the country. They risked their safety, they worked holidays and weekends, they left their families behind on dangerous missions. To see them discarded because they wouldn't bend to Trump's political will is not just a bureaucratic scandal, it's a moral failure. Deborah Ross made it clear Patel has failed his own test. And if the FBI loses its independence, America loses a cornerstone of justice. So here's the takeaway. Democracy doesn't just crumble from a single blow. It erodes bit by bit when institutions bend to politics instead of standing firm for the law. What Ross is doing here is drawing a line in the sand and reminding us all that it's not enough to take leaders at their word. We have to hold them accountable for their actions. If you care about protecting democracy, transparency, and fairness in law enforcement, this is the moment to stay vigilant. Share this, talk about it, and demand accountability. Because the FBI should belong to the people, not to one president.